two other ones that you mentioned in Arizona and Colorado, I think they're in a little bit different spots, and they both have fan bases that pump them up maybe a little bit too much for what's going on. But if you are to believe the Dion hype, which I feel like the hairs on the back of Totre's neck are just standing up right now, because I'm saying if you were to believe in the Dion hype and that Colorado got better this year and that they're going to put it all together, or if you believe Arizona fans who think that losing Jedd Fisch, losing some of their talent but retaining their top talent will either equal a similar or better season from last year, then you're looking at least one team in Arizona who should be competing for the college football playoffs, and then Colorado who could be a wild card for that. So I'm wondering, from your perspective, when it comes to Arizona football specifically, do you feel like they're going to be able to match or do better than last year from as unbiased of a perspective as you can give?
Not last year. They were great last year. Here's the deal. There's a lot of poor people in this country who win the lottery and become future poor people. Like, they got money in their pocket for a minute. Arizona's on a hot streak right now, and because of it, they lost their coach. Because of it, they lost their all-world running back. Because of it, they're in a situation where Jedd Fisch is out there probably trying to pull more players away. Raymond Polito not playing this year. You know, they've got Noah Fafita, who is awesome. They have quite possibly one of the top 3 receivers in the country, maybe the best in T-Mac. But outside of that, you know, this is a team that really is going to have to prove itself all over again. And they're going to have to do it with an entirely new coaching staff. And I love Brent Brennan. I think he is like the Mr. Rogers of the Big 12. He's a guy that just makes you feel good. He's a guy you want to play hard for. But I watched him very closely at San Jose State as a Mountain West fan. Mm-hmm. You know, they had that one good year that they put together, and it took 3 years of building to get there. And Arizona just got off a 3-year build. Is Brent Brennan a maintainer of success? We don't know that about him yet. So the idea that you could just pencil them in when regression to the mean is a very real thing for everybody. As an Arizona State fan, we know this. Yeah. That, you know, you could have a couple of good years, but if historically you're a certain thing, you might end up being that thing. The thing that Arizona has going for it beyond next year is access to California, which not a lot of these Big 12 schools have. I think it's going to be the biggest city in the Big 12. And they have a lot of excitement and resources, even if some of them are hate driven, just trying to prove Jedd Fisch wrong. You know, getting some of those resources into the football program, that's only going to do good things. So I think it's possible for Arizona to stay out of the basement. But if I've never seen something before, you know, what is my expectation that somebody who never managed their money well, but they win $2 million is going to turn that into $4 million? No, that's not my expectation. Could they prove me wrong? Sure. But, you know, they couldn't turn $10 into 20 before that. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how they handle this transition.
Yeah, and I do believe that you can look at positives for them. And listen, I hate them, right? Let's just get that out of the way. As I say a couple positives, I hate them. They brought back some of the best players in the conference. Right? Like that is a fact. They have a lot of talent on that team, but I do think that they are underrating not even just Jedd Fisch himself as a coach, as a person, as a recruiter, whatever. And I know they're really mad at him for how he left, but I think that lack of continuity is being kind of underrated as a detrimental factor towards carrying over their success towards the next year. Because Brent Brennan might be great and all, but how often do you see a new coach, a new person come in, and it takes a while for them to get their system going, maybe to get their guys in, maybe to get the coaching staff that they truly want, right? And you're right. They had a great season last year, their best season in a very, very, very long time. And now you're moving to a new conference. You're playing new opponents. You have a new head coach. You do have some new talent in there as well. And all of this at the same time, your fan base has massively high expectations. If you talk to Arizona fans, they talk about it is a college football playoff or bust type of season. And on top of that, the talent that you did retain, like a guy like Teteroa McMillan, he won't be around next year. You're looking at a team with a massive downgrade in talent after this season, thus adding on to that pressure for Arizona. So I agree with you to where I don't believe that they should be slotted in as some college football playoff like lock, right? But if I was a fan of theirs, or if I was on the coaching staff, or if I was a player, I would feel a massive amount of pressure to perform at that level. And I just don't think they can. And another team that I personally am not the biggest believer in are the Colorado Buffaloes. I understand if I was put into Buff fans' shoes why I would be drinking the Deion Kool-Aid. I understand that they have tried and possibly have shored up their offensive line, which was just downright abysmal last season. And I understand that they have two of the best players in the country in Travis Hunter and in Shedeur Sanders as well. But keeping all of that in mind, I still do not believe that a team who performed like they did last year is going to come in and immediately become one of the best teams, not only in the Big 12, but all of college football.
Yeah. I work with a man named George Reister, have a show called College Football Apostles. He says this all the time: a man's strengths flow from the same place as his weaknesses. I believe that Colorado is going to be a contender because of Deion Sanders. I believe that Colorado is going to trip over their own feet and fail spectacularly because of Deion Sanders. And it doesn't have anything to do with the level of talent, which they've raised tremendously. It doesn't have anything to do with the quarterback, which I believe is probably going to be the best quarterback in the conference. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they have the best player in the conference by far in Travis Hunter. It has to do with the fact that they do stuff like hire Sean Lewis, which everybody lauded as the best hire in the country last year. And then fire him mid-season, like blame what's going on him and take away play calling duties. And people knew, like real college football minds, they knew that Sean Lewis wasn't the problem. And he was. How many people get fired mid-season and then get a head coaching job? Very few. Yeah. Sean Lewis is the head coach of San Diego State now. Do you think that they think he was the problem at Colorado? No. So every good thing that's happening for Colorado right now is related to the Sanders family, and every mistake I think that's going to be made down the stretch by this team is going to be related to the Sanders family. You just have to decide what level of gratitude, what level of frustration you're going to have when that finally does go down. Because what is this team if Shedeur Sanders' habit of holding on to the ball gets him hurt?
Yeah.
Do they have a backup quarterback right now that they have confidence in? Travis Hunter plays so much. We saw what happened last year with Travis Hunter. They got that same team again, Colorado State. That's a physical team. They got to line it back up against it. What happens if Travis Hunter misses 2-3 weeks because of that game a second time? So I would temper expectations on Colorado. I think they're going to be the most exciting team in the conference. I'm not going to miss a Colorado game. I don't think anybody else should either. It's good TV, even if you're hate watching. But the idea of them going to TCU and beating them a second year in a row, the idea that Nebraska hasn't been thinking about them for 345 days straight, and I think that game's in Lincoln. Jay Norvell stays up at night, I think, just staring, like just whittling a piece of wood, like making a little Deion Sanders voodoo doll. So, they have so many people gunning for them. The fact that they'd run the table or even be a college football playoff team, that would shock me, genuinely shock me.
Yeah. I'm the same way, and I think Sharon, one of our diehards, wraps it up very well in one of her chats. She says, I think both that Colorado got more talent and also that they will implode upon themselves in fantastically chaotic fashion. And I really like what you were saying about the strengths and the weaknesses flow from the same place, and that Deion's going to be the reason why they succeeded. It was even the reason last year, right? Deion's the reason why people actually give a crap about Colorado football. Right? You're talking about a program that was the worst in the country and now has these expectations. And of course, they did not meet those expectations last year. And the wins that they did get are, you look back on them in real time and you gave a lot more credit to them when they won versus at the end of the season when you saw what those teams became. So you're going into, again, new conference, new opponents, and an underrated factor about all of this is locker room chemistry and locker room vibes. And you can believe whatever you want to believe when it comes to reporting out of Colorado. I know our DNVR Buff show is currently beefing with some reporters who are saying some things that they say are untrue. I understand that and I get it. And maybe that specifically is not true. But where there is smoke, there is fire, and you hear countless stories coming from that camp, coming from that program, that would maybe lead you to believe that if shit hits the fan a little bit at the beginning of a season, that it could just pile up. Maybe they're not going to be in a mental state to overcome the same type of adversity that maybe they would if we're doing great and we're playing really well, and then you hit a speed bump and you have that goodwill with your locker room and you have that chemistry. And so I think wrapping all of that into one, like you said, I would be floored if they end up a college football playoff contender. But of course, the Buffs fans would wildly disagree with that statement, in the same way that I would be shocked if Arizona was a surefire lock for the college football playoffs as well, but their fans are completely feeling the opposite way as well.
Well, Buffs fans, if you had told them 2 years ago, you have the opportunity to potentially win 7-8 games a year and also have the most spectacular public nuclear meltdown at the end of every season, they absolutely would have taken that.
Yeah.
The Carl Durrell years, most of Mike McIntyre's tenure. By the way, Colorado, don't beat us. Don't beat us. You beat us with Mike McIntyre, and then what happened? You lost out the entire season, and he had to get fired. What happened when you beat us last year? Did you lose 7 straight? I think you did. So maybe just let us win one, and then you'll be fine the rest of the season. Historically, I think that proves out.
It's a good move.
But no, I think that Colorado fans are happy with the state of the program, even if it is a big mess where they actually are in bowl contentions. Dion fans are a completely different thing.
That's fair.
They're college football's version of LeBron stands, and it's been very, very interesting and wild to watch the two mix and form this like hybrid monster that exists on the internet.